The Holy Mountain. This has got to be the weirdest movie in the world. And it's a little bit of background on my viewing of The Holy Mountain. I first watched The Holy Mountain 3 years ago. And it was I had previously watched everything else by Alejandro Jodorowsky, who is the director, and I kind of saved The Holy Mountain for last because apparently it was his best film, which it is. And just recently, a month ago perhaps, I had a weird movie night with my friends because I'm always talking about my weird movies and showing them clips and stuff. And first we watched Litsomania, and they thought it was sufficiently weird. And then they said, give me the weirdest thing you have. So I gave them The Holy Mountain. And it really left an imprint on everyone who saw it. And we all really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed watching it the second time. And this movie is like the definition of a weird movie. It's just weird from start to finish. And is that a good thing? First, we must ask ourselves. But before I ask that question, I just want to talk a little bit more about Alejandro Jodorowsky. And Alejandro Jodorowsky, he's an amazing director. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. And he directed 4 movies back in the day, back in the 70s. Fanduilis, El Topo, Santa Sangre, and The Holy Mountain. And he's, after all these years, he's finally making more movies, which I am ecstatic about. And in between there, and he tried to make adaptation of Dune, which failed. And there's a very interesting documentary about that. And he also wrote a bunch of books, which I have yet to read, and a bunch of comics, and I'm starting to read The Metabarons, and it's kind of interesting. I see a lot of his plans from the Dune adaptation inside that comic. And he is just this weird, wacky guy, and he labels himself as a spiritual guru, and apparently he's a master of tarot, and there's lots of references to tarot cards throughout the film, and pretty much the plot of the film, that's one thing which is kind of it does have a plot. So a lot of weird movies do not actually have a actual plot. They're just like a bunch of random events, and it kind of feels like a bunch of random events, but it does have an actual plot. But it kind of goes off on these tangents, and the actual plot doesn't start until like 30 minutes into the film. As I was telling my friends, that this is just the intro, and it starts off with this man who has obvious physical appearance similarities with Jesus, and this is played on throughout the first 30 minutes or so, and there's lots of odd images to go with this Jesus-like person who doesn't act very Jesus-like, and I actually made a music video, you can check it out, called Jesus is My Friend, and it has the song Jesus is My Friend by Sunseed playing for the background with these scenes from the Holy Mountain, which show Jesus as not a very good friend. And that's the irony of it. And so this Jesus character, he meets this, I guess he'd be a spiritual guru too, who was played by Jodorowsky. And him, along with a bunch of other characters from different planets, go on a journey to the Holy Mountain in order to achieve enlightenment. And so it has all these spiritual undertones to it, and might come off as a little pretentious, and it probably is a little pretentious, but there's nothing wrong with pretension when it is entertaining, and this movie is very entertaining, and it could be criticized as being weird for weirdness sake, and just shock value, and it does have a ton of shock value, but I think it's a little bit more than that. It's entertaining and it sticks with you. These images stick with you. And I think the fact that these images stick with you shows that they do have meaning, even if that meaning's a little simplistic and easy to figure out. It's a movie that, even though you're asking the question WTF a lot of the time, you can kind of get the symbolism easily and kind of get what it's trying to say. And what it's trying to say is not that hard to grasp, and it's not all the time something that needs to be said, as some people like to put it, like this is a message that needs to be said. It's kind of something that, and maybe it's just because it's a little dated, but if you have a good understanding of what's happening in the world and events around you, you can understand what Alejandro Jodorowsky is trying to get at with these images. And pretty much what he does throughout these films is he takes familiar images and that evoke a certain feeling, and he twists them around, and it's very effective, and so that they stick in your head, like of course the image of Jesus, which he twists around and everything. And actually in the film, the image of Jesus is manipulated. It's actually mass produced, which causes the Jesus lookalike character, who is credited as the thief, to go on a rampage, destroying all the mass-produced Jesus, if you can call them that. And he eventually eats the face of one of these Jesus sculptures, and very interesting. And a huge chunk of the film is just going through the backstories of these characters going to the Holy Mountain, and they're all like caricatures, and you can see what's flawed with all of them, and it actually and it makes the thief look like the least horrible person of all of them, and it makes sense that he comes from Earth, and he kind of represents us, and kind of like how Jesus does. And yeah, and then the movie just kind of ends, and the ending, not gonna give anything away, it's kind of disappointing. Pretty much your standard meta ending in which you break the fourth wall and you remind, well, just meta in general, where you remind your viewer that they are viewing a movie, and that's pretty much what the ending is. It's just a breaking of the fourth wall. And I remember one of the friends I was watching it with said that they were expecting something more for the ending. And I guess it makes sense. They've reached enlightenment. They realize that they're not real, I guess. And I don't know what else to say about it. It is kind of disappointing, but in a way, it's also probably the best way to end something. And I actually just recently watched Fellini's Stryticon, which reminded me a lot of The Holy Mountain, and it ends mid-sentence, and I thought that was kind of like the ending of The Holy Mountain, except not the ending of The Holy Mountain. And a couple more things I'd like to say. Some scenes that really stood out to my friends was the scene with the frogs, and we were always remarking about how big the budget was for this movie. And apparently it was funded by John Lennon, who was a fan of El Topo, and George Harrison was supposed to play the role of the thief, but he ended up not playing that role because he was opposed to the gratuitous nudity. In particular, a scene in which the character has his, I don't know how to put this lightly, his butt wiped. Yeah, another scene which everyone thought was the weirdest in the movie was this. I don't know the symbolism behind that, if there's any symbolism behind that, or if it's just something Jodorowsky said, well, that's sufficiently weird, I'll just throw that in there. So, anyways, yeah, The Holy Mountain, if you like weird movies and you haven't watched this already, you should definitely watch this and everything else Jodorowsky has made. And really excited for his new movie, Endless Poetry, which is a continuation of his most recent movie, Dreams of Dreams of Reality, I think. Reality of Dreams. The Dance of Reality. And it's supposed to be an autobiography of Jodorowsky's life, a loose autobiography, I should say, because I highly doubt a lot of the things that took place in the Dance of Reality actually occurred. And it's very interesting to see the origins of of whoever could have made the Holy Mountain. So very excited for that. And I'll see you next time. Bye.
If it's moist, it's yes. If it's dry, it's no.
Your clitoris against the mountain!